a really quick tutorial on using tests and quizzes in Schoology. When you're in your Schoology course, first of all, you probably have it set up so that you have some materials folders at the top by unit or topic or some other method of organization. So the first thing I would do would be to go into my folder that I have organized for all the materials for that particular unit or topic. You can also go to the materials index, which lists all the different kinds of files or links or assignments that you have within your course in one spot. But I like to create things in a little bit more organized way than just dumping everything in there. So I'm going to go into my first unit folder, and then I'm going to add materials and choose Add Test Quiz. Here I want to name my test or quiz. And I would assign it a due date. And any due date that you put on it is not going to really affect anything other than it will mark it later on time. You would give a point value if you would like. You can have it in a grading category. You can factor that grade. You can set it as a midterm or final, but I don't think I would do a lot of summative assessments in Schoology just yet. You can choose whether it's a numeric grade or a letter grade. You can make it visible or hidden from students. You can enable the grade statistics, which is what you want. So you want to make sure that that little pie chart is colored in. That's going to let you look at some diagnostic information. I would disable the comment, so I'd click that so that it is grayed out. That way the students can't make comments on the quiz that they can all see. And then once you create a test or quiz, you can copy it to a course or you can copy it to your resources folder. Then I'm going to hit create. And now that I'm in this quiz area, I can see that I have question areas. This is where I'll actually build my questions. And then I have a settings tab. The settings tab is really important. You're going to want to look at it because by default, the availability for all quizzes is hide now. So that means that the students can't see that quiz until you make it available. By clicking on this, you can make it available now. You can make it available from now until a particular date and time. And you can set a date and time range. So if I want it available from now until Friday at 11 o'clock a.m., I can do that by entering that. I can put a time limit on the quiz. So if I'm doing a time test in class, I could maybe put a time limit on that. So you just put in the number of minutes you would like them to take. You can put in an attempt limit, so you can have unlimited attempts so that the students can go back in and take it as many times as they want, or you can limit the number of times. You can randomize the order of the questions so that every student sees the questions in a different order. You can put page breaks so you can have only one question per page. Question review lets kids go back and change answers before they submit the test or quiz. I can make it resumable, so if the student leaves the quiz and comes back to it, they can resume it and submit it. And then they can view what they've submitted. They can also view it with correct answers. So those are all settings that you can control. The instructions area at the top is a rich text editor, so you can make this text formatted however you want. You can put instructions in there. You can put links in there. You can insert an image or media or a video in there. And then you can save those changes. Then you can go back to your questions tab and begin adding the questions that you want. So when I tap Add Question or click Add Question, I can see that I have many choices in the types of questions I want to enter. The first type of question is true-false. Clicking on true-false will allow me to type in my question body. And then you can make the text for true and false say whatever you would like them to say, correct and incorrect, whatever you want this text to be. Choose the correct answer. If the false requires a correction, so if you want the students to respond with false, and you can click that and then you can put in what you want that correct phrase to be, and then you can weight that. You can make the question subjective so that you have to hand grade it, and then you can time the question, and obviously there's a point value for the question. The advanced option for questions is always going to be align learning objectives. So if you're a teacher who aligns each test question to Common Core or NGSS, or maybe your own I can statements that you've entered, you can do that, but you would need to do those learning objectives and import them or enter them in advance. Once you have that in, you can go ahead and choose Create Question, and that question will be added to your quiz. Multiple choice, again, is pretty self-explanatory. You have your question body above, and then you have your different options. You would check off whichever the correct answer would be. Obviously, I'm just entering kind of gibberish here. You can add and subtract as many choices as you need to. So if I don't have a fourth choice, I can remove that as a blank. I can randomize the choices, which is nice, especially if you're giving a formative to a bunch of kids in the same classroom. You can not only randomize the questions under settings, but you can also randomize the choices under questions. You can again time this question, give it a point value. And here's your align learning objectives, just like with any other question. Now, show feedback is going to give automatic feedback if they've chosen a particular answer. So you can give the student more information and give them very specific feedback about what they've answered by typing in that area. Then you create the question, and now you've got a multiple choice question. Ordering is another type of question. So you can ask the students to put items in a particular order. There's a short answer or essay question. Now, obviously, the short answer or essay question is just going to allow the students to enter text. So this is a subjective question that you will have to hand grade. You can put a character limit on it. You can allow rich text, which means the students can modify the text and make it bold or, formatted with bullet points or insert media. You can time the question. So if you're using some kind of timed writing, this would be a good option. And then you can give it a point value. Fill in the blank is probably one of the types of questions that people have the most trouble with because their instinct is to type the question like this. And then they make a lot of blanks, right? So we're trying to make a blank space that is the length of the word that we think goes there. But in Schoology, all you have to do is enter one underscore to make a blank. So see how it gives me all those crazy errors and it adds all those blanks? I actually don't want to do that. When I make a when I make a fill in the blank question, I only want one blank, and then I can type in my answer. I can even add multiple options. So if there are multiple correct answers or possibilities for that blank, I can do that. I can create a word bank. So if I want students to have a word bank visible, I can do that. I can allow partial credit, make it case sensitive or not, which I kind of addressed here, but you can do that. And then obviously my point value, my timing, all those things are always going to be there. And then create your question. The matching question allows you to have students match terms. So I'm going to go into one that I've already created and edit so that you can see what this looks like. I would put my instructions here, and then I have my questions and my matching answers in these areas. I can reorder these in any order I want. When they are displayed to the student, the questions will be in the order that you set them here. The answers will be shuffled. And then you can add filler words so that there are more answers than questions. So it allows the students to not just necessarily match up everything and then by process of elimination figure out what they didn't get. This filler words adds more answer possibilities. As always, you have partial credit, subjective, and timed, and a point value, so I can save that. And then what that looks like to students is going to be here. So you can see that there's an answer column here, column B, so there are more possibilities than there are questions. Some other options that you have here are to import questions from question banks, which we'll talk about in a minute, and then to import an entire test or quiz. So if you're using something like exam view questions in another format, you can export your exam view questions to the Blackboard format and then import using Blackboard here. There aren't a lot of import options, but know that if you are using some exam view material, that's a possibility. We'll come back to the question banks. You can insert page breaks, so if you want to group questions on certain pages, you can do that. And then you can insert text, which is just instructional text that sort of separates one question from another. We looked at the settings tab already, but just to review, Don't forget to put some kind of instructions, check your availability, and then set these settings as you would like. The preview option lets you go through the quiz and view it like a student would. So you can go ahead and preview, and then the results we'll look at in a minute. When I'm finished editing my quiz, I can see that it's available to students. Once the students actually take the quiz, I can view the statistics. So clicking on that will give me a histogram of the grades. I can view the grade info, so it tells me what category it is and what grading period, if I've set that up. And then under Edit, I have more options. So I have the opportunity to unpublish this, to copy it to another course, to export the stats into Excel. If I go to Edit, that's going to bring up those initial options that I had when I created the quiz. So visible to students, enabling the grade statistics, all of those things. When I go into my Unit 1 folder where my quiz is now, if I click on the little gear on the right, I can also move it to a different folder, copy it to another course from here, and save to my resources. So if I know I want to use this quiz maybe next year or next semester, I can save it to my resources, put it in a folder, and save a copy of it, which is nice. So you can always save from resources to a course, or you can save from a course to resources. It's always, you can go back and forth either way. The other thing I can do is if I click on this quiz, I have the options to add questions to a question bank, which means I always have opportunities to use those questions on other quizzes. This is nice if there are maybe some questions that you're going to give on a pre-assessment and then you want to give it again later as a formative to see how they've done. You can have those questions in the question bank so that you don't have to rewrite those questions. So I can click on that, I can create a question bank, and then I can check off which ones I want to use. So I checked off all my questions, and then I can choose a question bank. I can create one right from here, or I can choose one that I've already created. I already created that one, so I can choose that. Or if there are things that are shared by others, then I can select that bank as well. The last piece when you're working with quizzes is to actually look at the results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my quiz, and then I'm going to click on the Results tab. So there are two different views that you can view for the results. You can view by student, which is going to give you individual student information, and then you can view by question. We're going to start with the view by student mode. So you have the student's name. Under submissions and attempts, there are two numbers. The first number is how many submissions they made, so depending on how many you allow, this will show you how many times the student submitted the quiz. And the number of attempts is how many times they started the quiz. So if you notice that there are 0 submissions in one attempt, that means they didn't finish the quiz and submit it. You can see when the latest attempt was, what the score is if the student's taking a quiz that the computer is going to score, or if you've already gone in and graded the quiz if there are subjective or short answer questions. And then under View Attempts, this is what you would click on if you want to actually individually grade the questions yourself. So if I click on that, I can click on the gear next to the student's name for the submission, click View Edit, and then I can go in and give an individual grade. I can also add comments to individual questions that the student will see. Also under Results, I can view by question. So viewing by question lets me look at all of the statistics for those questions on the quiz. So if I click See Stats for question 1, I can see that 9 of the students answered the correct answer true, and 5 answered false, which was incorrect, and nobody did not answer the question. So I can view individual responses if I'd like, and it gives me an average of the points earned for that question. And I can do that for all the questions on my quiz. I can also click on the View Stats Histogram button at the top, which is going to show me the statistics for this particular quiz. So it's going to show me where my grades lie on this curve, how many grades I had, the maximum number of points earned, what the highest grade was and the lowest grade, the average for the quiz, the standard deviation, and the median and the mode. This was just a really quick how-to on creating quizzes in Schoology. For more information on creating quizzes in Schoology, you can always go to the Help Center, which is up in the right corner, and go to Read Schoology Guides, and you're looking for course materials under instructors. So there's a little bit more information there in course materials, as well as lots of information on all the different features of Schoology.